ladies and gentlemen, a great Tuesday after joint practice up against the Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to discuss the injury news around Jayden Higgins. Obviously, if you didn't see my video earlier, the Texans wide receiver 2 went down in practice today. We'll discuss that. Also, my overarching thoughts around Texans joint practice. And then we've got a great segment for you, roster bubble watch. Players that really need to be looking over their shoulder, that really need to impress in this second preseason game if they want to make the final 53-man roster for your Houston Texans. And we got a great group of people in the live chat already. So let me know down below, where are you watching from? I see Atlas Mac. I see Anointed Stan. I see Isaac Smith, H-Town Clips, Mitchell. All of y'all rocking and rolling with us today. Let me know where you're watching from down below in the chat. Anointed Stan, Chugs live on a Tuesday. What a day. Yeah, I decided to go live today instead of tomorrow. The joint practice was today, right? Like, I have so much stuff I want to discuss on today's show. I didn't want to wait for tomorrow's show, so let's get rocking and rolling. And now that the season is getting going, we're going to be live more often. I got producer Brian on the ones and twos doing his thing, so we're going to have a lot of fun this season as we got Melissa Couch rocking from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Boost says first time watching live. Let's go, Boost. Let's go. We got Alvin, Texas in the building. Marion, Texas. Richard B. from Brownsville. St. Louis, Sugarland in the house. Let's freaking go. Dickinson as well. And let me know down below in the comments section, the Texans breakout player this season will be blank, because I think I speak for most Texans fans when we all kind of held our breath when we saw the news that Jayden Higgins went down at practice. So let me know down below. He was my guy throughout the entire offseason that I've been saying will be the breakout player for this Houston Texans squad. I think Jayden Higgins is a player that a lot of Texans fans really believed would take that second-year jump this season. Now, we don't have the full news yet on Jayden Higgins. Basically, the news is that he went down at practice and he was in pain, right? This from Jonathan M. Alexander of the Houston Chronicle. He was on the ground, helmet off, in pain. But the good news is he was able to walk off under his own power. He walked off the field, went into the medical tent to get checked on by team personnel. So the good news is he didn't have to, get carted off or anything. He was just a little shaken up on the play. Big Sarge came in with this. Texans head coach D'Amico Ryans said that wide receiver Jayden Higgins is being evaluated for a lower leg injury. So hopefully it's something very minor. It's something that will only keep him out about a week or so. I don't expect him to play in this preseason game this week up against the Raiders. And CJ Stroud also chimed in after practice that he thinks that he'll be fine. He thinks that it is a minor injury, so we can all take a little sigh of relief, right? Like, it's okay. Jayden Higgins, I think we'll be okay. Just a little shaken up, a little precautionary measure during practice. If you are ready for this live show, if you're ready to talk some Texans football, make sure to go down, hit that like button. While you are rocking and rolling, wipe those feet. I appreciate everybody for rocking and rolling on our show. I always say the most important thing you have on this planet is your time, and the fact that you're spending some of that time here on Texans Today means the world to me. Make sure to move the prize picks up a little bit because the logo's in front on the right bottom. But yeah, I appreciate everybody. Make sure you go down, hit that like button. We're going to talk about Texans joint practice. I'm going to give you my thoughts around the joint practice and how the Texans performed today here in just a moment. But I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our friends over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily sports picks app. It is the place to go if you love watching sports and winning some cash. It's available in most of the United States, including California, Texas, and Florida. And during the whole season, I will be putting in Prize Picks lineups that you can follow along with. Jeremy_Chugs is where you can follow me on the Prize Picks app. So make sure to give me a follow on that and copy all the lineups that I put out throughout the season. This is the lineup that I have. It's a season-long one. I'm going, funny enough, we're playing the Raiders. I have Mendoza less on his pass yards. I think Kirk Cousins is probably going to start most of the season. Higgins, though, I have his receiving yards the more. I also have Monty the more on his rush yards. Of course, Anderson and Stingley. I'm going more on those because those two guys are absolute beasts. Like I said, you can copy my lineup or make your own. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. Best of all, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups. If you win, just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right, Prize Picks, they're switching it up. So lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's go back and talk about Texans practice because there was a lot of good from this joint practice up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, the one bad thing was we can just do the List 5 logo. We can just show that. The one bad thing was the Jayden Higgins injury, right? Besides that, though, I would say most of all, good stuff, right? Like Will Anderson was the best player on the field, bar none. Like he is, in my opinion, this next year, if he's healthy throughout the entire season, he will be a top 5 player in the NFL. Whenever they do the NFL top 100 list next season, he should be in the top 5. That's how good he's been this offseason, and that's how good he can be. Stroud also had a really good day. He had one interception. It was on a wheel route. Raiders linebacker Quay Walker picked it off. Besides that, he was on the money during this practice. He was really good during the team drills, during the different situational drills that they had, like the 2-minute, the red zone drills. He played very well. There was even one play where the snap was kind of bobbled. It went on the ground. Stroud was able to maintain control, pick it up, find Woody Marks in the flat for a touchdown. He did really good during today's practice. The O-line played pretty well as well. The tackles had some problems with Max Crosby and Kwity Paye, but the interior of the line looked really good. And one thing to note is Keylan Rutledge actually was playing a lot of guard at practice today. They had been, moving him from center to guard to center. He got a lot of work at guard today. My guess is it was a rest day for Wyatt Teller because Keylan Rutledge got a lot of work at left guard. They put in Evan Brown at center. They put in Jake Andrews at center. And I almost wonder if they are really doing that to see, who kind of stands out as that backup center option. Because my thought is if there's an injury at guard, whether it's Ed Ingram, whether it's Wyatt Teller, I think those are the starting guards for the season. And you have Keylan Rutledge at center. But if there's an injury to one of the guards, I think they bump over Keylan Rutledge to one of the guard spots, and then either Evan Browner or Jake Andrews steps in at the center spot. But the O-line, they played really well today, and along with that, the run game looked really good. Like, Woody Marks had himself a day. David Montgomery had some really good rushes in there as well. The run game looked really solid. It has kind of been, kind of wavering back and forth throughout the training camp process so far, but also they've been going up against the Texans defense, which is bar none the best in the NFL. Like I said, my only really concern was with Jayden Higgins. The defense, they played lights out as usual. They had 2 pick sixes on the day. Kamari Lassiter took one the other way. He picked off Kirk Cousins. And then Jalen Petrie, he picked off Fernando Mendoza, took it to the house the other way. So 2 pick sixes in this practice for this Texans defense. They were absolutely awesome in this practice. And obviously the defensive line, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter absolutely showed out. But I want to go back to C.J. Stroud because that is the part of the offseason. This is the question of the offseason that every Texans fan wants an answer to. And I'm asking you right now, what does Stroud need to do to prove that he's the franchise quarterback? Because I still get on my videos, like I give Stroud praise. I'm trying to hype him up. I'm talking about him going into the season. And I still get, maybe it's not hate comments. Maybe it's, fair criticism, especially with the way he ended last season. But there's a lot of people that are not ready to welcome Stroud back to this Texans team and welcome him onto the field as the franchise guy. So you let me know, what does Stroud need to do to prove to you that he's the franchise guy? You're like, you know what? We can't say that Stroud's the guy unless X, Y, or Z. Let me know down below in the comments section. Because I agree with Just Harry. Like, we talked about it a million times at this point, but I feel like we can't let last season go. Like, we can't just flip the page, go on to a new year. Like, we have to accept Stroud is the guy this season. Stroud is the one that's going to try to take us to the mountaintop this season. He's the one that we got to really rally behind. But people are still just ready to, kind of pounce on him for what he's done last season. I don't know. Like, I think the Texans fans need to, kind of move on a little bit from last year. I know it's tough. The way last season ended was really bad. But I believe in Stroud. I believe that he will improve this year, and I think the O-line, I think the running back room will help him a ton. We got some Raider fans rolling into our chat right now. Mitch must be just finishing up with his live show. Anointed Stan says, be consistent. I believe in CJ, though. Just Harry says, play good in the playoffs like he did in the Browns game back in 23. Texas Flusher, with so many injuries in training camp, is it better to play flag football during training camp? I mean, you're going to have injuries regardless. That's just the name of the game. And honestly, knock on wood, the Texans have been really lucky with the fact that I feel like they haven't really gotten hit with the injury bug as bad as some other teams. Like, you look at the Chargers today, they had like 4 injuries at practice. The 49ers, well, they're next to the substation, so we all know about that. But the 49ers have had a litany of injuries this offseason, along with other teams. I mean, look at the NFC South. The NFC South has probably been the most injury-plagued division in the entire NFL. They've had multiple season-ending injuries already. So, knock on wood, we still got a couple more weeks of training camp to go. But all things considered, I think the Texans have been somewhat, good on that. And, they're criticized. Like, the Texans are highly criticized for the fact that, they, with Tank Dell, with Nico Collins, with a lot of their guys, they decide to, rest them on certain days. They decide to not let them, practice on certain days, give certain guys rest days. But I also think it's smart at a point because DeMeco Ryans a former player in the NFL. He knows what it's like to go through the training camp process. And as long as we're week 1 up against the Buffalo Bills, with the majority of our guys not injured, like, that is the main goal, right? Like, you want to make sure that we are as healthy as possible whenever it gets to week 1. So I'd really like for the Texans to, keep that safety going and make sure no injuries happen. As I welcome on my guy, producer Brian, any thoughts for you as somebody who, I would say, newer to Texans fandom, you're obviously kind of on the outside looking in with CJ Stroud. What are your thoughts on CJ and, actually, we got to get you your mic on. Here you go. Bam. There we go. What are your thoughts, Brian?
Mic check.
There we go.
We're good. So my thoughts on what CJ has to prove. Like, I feel like 2023 was really good. I feel like he showed us a lot of great things, and 24 and 25 as well. I feel like he's being really scrutinized for that one playoff game. But with that said, you've got to be consistent. Like, I saw Anointed Stan throwing a comment here in the comment section a few minutes ago. It's about consistency. Like, we know what CJ Stroud is capable of. We know what his ceiling is. It reminds me a lot of the Tua situation these past couple of years. Like, I feel like people are always easy to bang on Tua. Like, he's an easy target to make fun of. But people forget that he led the league in passer rating and passing yards in 2023. Tua was a really good quarterback when he was healthy before that second injury with the Bills. And then he just became like the butt of the joke for the NFL. Now that he's kind of phasing out, it feels like that role has switched to CJ, which I don't think is completely fair, but CJ has control over his situation, and he can ball out this year. Like, I like his targets. Nico Collins coming back, Dalton Schultz. I love what y'all have what the Texans have in the backfield this year. It's a really good team this year. So I feel like CJ has control over his narrative, and he can change it. Is he too harshly scrutinized? Yes, but he can change it.
And I do think during the regular season last year, like, people act like CJ was just god-awful throughout the entire season. Like, I don't think that's the case. Like, I thought last year CJ wasn't as bad as people make him out to be, right? And you talked about Tua Tagovailoa. The other guy that I kind of think about when I think of CJ Stroud is Baker Mayfield. Like, remember when the Browns, they spit the first overall pick on Baker. Then they were so ready to cast him aside. And then the NFL, labeled him as this, wandering quarterback that, once could have been, but is no longer, serviceable in the league, right? The Panthers cut him. Nobody wanted him. He got picked up by the Rams. And then he got a chance with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He went to a good team, right system, good coach, good players around him. And look what Baker Mayfield is now. Like, he was viewed at one point last season as a possible MVP candidate. Like, that's how I view CJ Stroud. Like, I think he might not be in, and similar to Baker, he's not in the same stratosphere as guys like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Josh Allen, like a Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. There's only a select few of those guys, right? Like, they're kind of in their own category. And even talking about Burrow, like with his injury history, he might be kind of getting slid down from that category. But I think he could be in that next one, right? With guys like a Baker Mayfield, with a Dak Prescott, with players that are top 10 quarterbacks, even though they're not viewed as the best quarterback in the league. Like, that's how I feel like CJ can be. Like, I feel like, and Anointed Sand says prime CJ was better than prime Baker. Maybe, right? But I think it's close. Like, whenever I view what Baker Mayfield is now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's how I view what CJ can be with the Texans, right? Like, he is a fringe top 5, but can surely be a top 10 quarterback in this league whenever he has his ducks lined in a row. And there is something to be said about, right place, right time, and you having everything that you need around you. Because look at, not only Baker Mayfield, not only CJ Stroud, but the quarterback that won the Super Bowl this past year, Sam Darnold, right? Like, he was ready to be cast aside. He was a backup in multiple locations, right? He was a backup, I believe, for the 49ers. He was, able to win the starting job with the Minnesota Vikings, and then they let him walk in free agency. He goes to the Seahawks, and he ends up winning a Super Bowl. Like, I think CJ is in that line of quarterbacks, and we all think about quarterbacks and we think of franchise guys as you have to be Mahomes, you have to be the best quarterback in the league, or else we can't sign you to XYZ contract. If you're not Josh Allen, then you're not good enough. I don't think that's the case. Like, as long as he can be a good quarterback, I think everything is good.
And that's the whole thing that we've got to retire, is the expecting everybody to be Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That, for whatever reason, that's a really big thing. Like, I feel like we've had a couple generational quarterbacks enter the picture at the same time. Mahomes was the 2017 draft class. Josh Allen, Lamar were 2018. Joe Burrow was 2020. They all came in at the same time. And so we have this expectation that's what your franchise quarterback is supposed to look like. That is an inflated image. Guys like CJ Stroud, guys like Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, they are enough. If you build a roster around them,
especially with the Texans defense,
and with this defense, look, the only thing that matters to H-Town is bringing a ring home.
Oh,
okay,
put a bull on a ring.
Bring the Lombardi home. That's what matters. Guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen are made in a lab. Not everybody's like that. We got to get rid of the expectation that everybody's going to be like that. And CJ Stroud, to build off of your points about Sam Darnold, you have the opportunity to rewrite the narrative whenever, right? Sam Darnold has done it. Baker Mayfield, to a certain degree, has done it. You can get written off and rebound. And just because of what we've seen out of CJ in the past, 23, 24, even times last year, we know what he's capable of. Like, let's stop with the nonsense of acting like CJ's garbage, because he's not. Let's put that to bed.
Yeah, it's just like I made a video earlier this month saying, like, he's just kind of like the punching bag of the NFL right now, just because, a lot of people want somebody to make fun of. So that's just kind of how it is. We have a couple segments on tap for you today. I have 5 players on offense, 5 players on defense that I think have the most approved. We also have a mailbag later on today. I don't think we have many questions, Producer Brian. So if you haven't already, go down in the comment section, use hashtag Texans, or you can super chat to skip the line if you want to get on our mailbag later on in the program. As you see, Eric Bishop, very good example of using hashtag Texans. Just put it in your comments so my guy, Producer Brian, can find it, and it's easier to put up on screen. You can give me any questions that you have around the Texans, any thoughts that you have around this team, especially looking at that next preseason game up against the Raiders. Like, if you have any questions around that game, what the Texans should do, any backups, please feel free to ask them so we can get your comments and questions up on the show. But first, we're going to go ahead and do our first segment on today's show, which is players with the most to prove. If you haven't already, go down, hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video. We are going to get started let's go 25 likes. We're at 22 likes right now. We need 3 people to go down and hit the thumbs up icon, and then we will go ahead and start our first segment on today's show, which is the Texans with the most approved Texans that might be on the roster bubble going into this second preseason game up against the Las Vegas Raiders. And anointed stand, exactly, right? Like, that's a perfect example. Jalen Hurts is somebody who has won his team a Super Bowl and is still the butt of jokes, is still somebody who doesn't get respect. So no matter what you do in this league, they're going to look at a way to bring you down, right? Like, they're going to try to cut you down as much as they can. And that's a perfect example, right? Like, I think even if the Texans do make an AFC championship game, if they make a Super Bowl this year, people will look at things to criticize around CJ Stroud. That's just how it is. And, you know, there is some criticism that is deserved from CJ, right? Like, he didn't play well at points last year, especially in the playoffs. That game was horrendous. But you can't just look at CJ and act like the rest of the team didn't play like absolute dog water in that game.
That's a comment. I know we can stand W, by the way.
No, another anointed stand W. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first segment on today's show. Are we ready to roll? Intro screen good? Okay, sweet. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first segment on tap for you today. It is going to be around, like I said, players with the most approved up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Go ahead, keep those questions flowing. I see all the hashtag Texans. I appreciate y'all getting in there. And let's get started with our first segment here on Texans Today Live. Welcome into Texans Today, presented by Prize Picks. And before we get into the program, I have a quick question for you, because obviously the preseason, it's not really about the starters. We will see the starters for a couple of drives up against the Las Vegas Raiders, but it is more geared towards the depth of this team, more geared towards the backups and players that are still trying to make this team. So it's a very simple question. It's the only one that I really want you to go down in the comment section and let me know who has the most approved on this Texans team during this second preseason game. Is it a starter? Is it a backup? Is it somebody that you think maybe could or could not make the roster? Let me know down below in the comment section your thoughts, because coming up on today's show, we're looking at players that might be on the roster bubble or might be trying to earn a starting spot on this Texans squad. I are the players that I think have the most to prove for the Texans. I have 5 on offense, 5 on defense, and we're going to run through them here on today's show before the Texans face off up against the Raiders on Thursday night. Quick reminder, I will be live for that game here on the channel about 45 minutes before kickoff, so make sure to not miss a single moment of Texans football. Make sure to hit that sub button and follow along here on Texans Today. All right, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball with the guys who are the most approved. And first up, I'm going with running back Whittington. I think he really played well in that first preseason game up against the Chargers. And he has a great opportunity, right? He was a UDFA this past season. You know, the Texans, the depth at running back behind David Montgomery, Woody Marks, great 1-2 combo. But the depth behind those guys isn't necessarily there. And I think Whittington has a great opportunity to go ahead and make his mark, make a spot for him on this team. Because when you look at it, Jawar Jordan, he's still dealing with a hip flexor, a strained hip flexor that's kept him out. British Brooks had a broken hand a couple weeks ago. He still hasn't returned to action. So when you look, I mean, Josh Pitsenberger is injured too. So it's really Noah Whittington and Owen Wright. I imagine Noah Whittington is going to get the bulk of the carries up against the Raiders on Thursday night. And that's going to give him an amazing opportunity to show that he deserves a spot on this team. And not only that, on special teams. He was able to contribute on special teams as well as a kick returner, punt returner. So he can definitely be somebody who can prove to this coaching staff, prove to this team that he deserves a spot on that 53-man roster. And especially if Jawar Jordan isn't able to get back before the start of the year, not only is he going to prove to that, he's going to have to be a player that really is ready to go, because the Texans won't really have much other options, right? There's a couple running backs on the free agent market, but Najee Harris just got signed by the New York Giants. There's not a ton of options for the Texans unless they want to go out and maybe sign one of these other running backs in free agency. But really, it's going to be up to Noah Whittington with all these injuries in the Texans running back room to provide that depth that the Texans will need during the regular season. Let's go to another player on offense, another rookie that's looking to prove himself. Lewis Bond, and maybe not on the roster level. I think he's done enough to prove that he deserves a spot on the 53-man roster. I would say almost surely he's going to make that 53-man roster. But, he had been getting hyped up all during training camp. He is one of the guys that, he gets posted every single day by the Texans social media team. He has his own fan club out there. Like, everybody loves Lewis Bond, the 6th-round pick out of Boston College. Didn't see a ton from him in that first preseason game up against the Chargers. And I was a little disappointed. Like, I wanted to see more of him work. He had a couple really good punt returns, but on offense, especially with the fact that Davis Mills played most of that game, I was hoping that Lewis Bond, we would see him kind of break out, have some catches, have some chunk plays, have some, good plays in this Texans offense. And he really didn't. He really didn't, get to, kind of strut his stuff, really prove himself in that first preseason game. I want that to change in this game up against the Raiders. And I think he's going to have a golden opportunity, because if you didn't see my videos after Texans and Raiders joint practice on Tuesday, Jayden Higgins went down with injury. He is not going to really, I would highly doubt he plays up against the Raiders. But I think, especially with him being injured, Tank Dell is coming back from injury. We know the injury history with Nico Collins. Jaylen Noel's been dealing with injury. There's so much injury in this wide receiver room that Lewis Bond has a golden chance to show that he deserves not only a spot on this roster, but a spot for meaningful snaps. Like, this was kind of the same song and dance last offseason with Jaylen Noel. He really lit it up during Texans training camp, and then what happened in the regular season? You saw like 24% of the offensive snaps. We really didn't get to see him work that much in this Texans offense. I kind of see the writing on the wall the same way for Lewis Bond. Like, going to be great during the offseason, looks really good. But whenever it comes down to it, whenever it comes down to game day, I just wonder how much he's actually going to be used, because we didn't see him that much up against the Chargers. Hopefully that changes up against the Raiders. We have more players with a lot to prove coming up in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsor over at Prize Picks, America's #1 sports pick app. It is the place to go if you love winning cash. Well, watching your favorite sports, whether it is football, college football's almost here. Producer Brian, his eyebrows went up a little bit as he is ready for his Crimson Tide to hit back on the field. And you know what, Producer Brian, you can win some cash while watching those Crimson Tide go out every single Saturday with our friends over at Prize Picks. It is the place to go if you love daily fantasy sports, America's #1 sports picks app. All you do is pick more or less on your few player stats and then lock in your lineup. This is a lineup that I have. It's one of my season-long lineups. I actually have 2 season-long lineups. This is a 4-pick power play, $15 to pay $150. I'm going with T-Law. You have to pick one player from another team. I'm going his less on his rush yards, and then I'm going Stroud, more on the passing touchdowns. Demo, the more on his rush yards, and then Will Anderson, the more on his sacks. You can copy my lineup or go ahead and make your own. Just do it with our friends over at Prize Picks. Play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right, Prize Picks, they're switching it up. No better time to join, lock in, win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's continue on with the rest of the players to prove on offense. Next up, it's going to be Cade Stover. And he's somebody who I kind of written off, but with the injury to Brevin Jordan and the fact that the Texans offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, wants to utilize the tight end position a lot more this season, maybe that carves out a role for the former 3rd-round pick out of Ohio State. Listen, last year really didn't impress, right? 12 receptions, 76 yards. He was injured a ton in that postseason game up against the New England Patriots. After Dalton Schultz went down, it was him and Harrison Bryant, and they didn't give you a ton, right? So I was kind of like, oh, Cade Stover, will he make the roster? Will he not? You know, the fact that Cade Stover has really been working his tail off, and the fact that he, in that first preseason game, one thing I noticed on kickoffs, he was the first guy down there. He was the guy whenever, the Texans kicked it away. I saw him almost making a tackle or making the tackle on most of those kickoffs. And the Texans coaching staff, they notice those things. Frank Ross, the Texans special teams coordinator, they notice those things because if you are a backup at a position, if you are the fourth tight end, fifth tight end, if you're the fourth or fifth running back, fifth or sixth wide receiver, you have to help out in other ways, right? Like, I think the fact that Cade Stover is able to show that he's multidimensional, that he's willing to play special teams, that he's willing to cross-train at fullback, something that Aaron Wilson reported that he's been doing all off season long. All those things are going to help Cade Stover make this 53-man roster. And whenever it comes down to it, it's going to be a hard decision for the Texans, especially with the fact that, Brevin Jordan's injured right now. If he comes back, if he starts to look a little bit better, I wonder which one they're going to keep. I would say you probably lean towards Stover because he's been the one that's healthy. He's been the one that's out there throughout training camp. Let's go to the next player on offense with the most approved. And this isn't a roster bubble candidate. This is somebody who is looking to start. Braden Smith. The free agent acquisition this offseason for the Houston Texans. They signed him over from the Indianapolis Colts, and I assumed, he's going to be the starting guy at right tackle. Not so fast, sweetheart. I think Braden Smith has a run for his money with Trent Brown looking really good this offseason. It was Braden Smith, what a good addition. He's going to start. All this, that, and the other. Well, right now, I have Trent Brown there at the starting right tackle, and in the Texans' unofficial depth charts, they had Trent Brown or Braden Smith listed for the right tackle spot. It was the only position on the Texans' depth chart where they didn't have a solidified starter. So I'm really looking at Braden Smith, and I wonder how much the O-line's going to play, because in that first preseason game, these were the only starters that played, was the Texans' offensive line. Besides that, there were no other starters that played for the Houston Texans in that first preseason game. And now that the starters will play in the second preseason game, how much run is the O-line going to get? Are we going to see more reps of Keylan Rutledge? Are we going to see more reps of Braden Smith out there? So I'm really looking towards this Texans offensive line, and especially Braden Smith, to see how he plays up against the Raiders. Now, the Texans in their joint practice on Tuesday had some issues at the tackle positions. It was a lot of Blake Fisher out there up against Max Crosby, so I do understand that being definitely very heavily favored towards the Las Vegas Raiders. But I'm interested to see, if Max Crosby's out there, if Kwity Paye, the starting Raiders edge rushers, how these Texans tackles perform, how Braden Smith looks, how Ariante Ursary looks in this game. But more importantly, Ursary already has his spot locked up. I think he is the left tackle. I think, he's good to go. But right tackle, I'm really interested in Braden Smith and what he's got. Now, somebody who I think is a 50-50 chance right now to make the roster is Jake Andrews. And if you would have told me at the end of last season that Jake Andrews might not make the 53-man roster, I don't know if I would have believed you, because this is somebody who wasn't on the team, wasn't a backup. This guy started 16 games for the Texans at center last year. Now, the Texans' offensive line was not good. They were bottom 10 in the league, so maybe I should have believed you when you told me that he wouldn't make the roster. But at the same time, it is crazy to think that, Jake Andrews, somebody who started all those games, might not make the roster. And somebody like Jarrett Patterson, who didn't start over Jake Andrews, is somebody who was a bench player for the Texans last year, would make the team over him. But that seems to be the case because, Jake Andrews has struggled a lot. He really didn't get a lot of run in that preseason game. Got in, I think, in the third quarter up against the Chargers and didn't look good whenever he got reps. So I'm interested to see, how he is going to be implemented in this Texans offensive line. During the joint practice on Tuesday, they had Jake Andrews and Evan Brown as the two guys rotating in at center with the ones. They were actually having Keylan Rutledge play the guard spots. I think they had Wyatt Teller on a, rest day during that joint practice. But I will be looking at the center spot. I will be looking at Jake Andrews versus Evan Brown to see who will end up making this 53-man roster because, like I said, very shocking turn of events from somebody who started 16 games for us last year to might not make the roster here at the end of this offseason. All right, let's talk more about the Texans, but first, we have an opponent on Thursday night. It is the Las Vegas Raiders, and here at Chat Sports, the Raiders are the largest channel that we have. It's them and the Cowboys. So we have a tough battle ahead of us. This is our subscriber battle so far this week. They are at 230 subs. We are at a low 112. But hey, I never back down from a challenge, and I don't think any Texans fan would back down from a challenge. So if you haven't already, go down and hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. You get daily videos. We also have weekly watch parties, and they're all 100% free. And also, I don't want my guy Mitchell Renz to keep on bragging about how his channel is doing better than my channel. I want to be able to fight back a little bit. So if you haven't already, go down, help me out, and hit that subscribe button. All right, let's move over to the defensive side of the football. Tremon Smith. This is somebody who last year was a kick returner for the Texans, was a backup corner who added some good depth. Now, the Texans have a lot of really good young corners on this roster right now. J-Rock, a.k.a. Jaylen Smith, the second-year cornerback out of USC. Also, UDFA Colin Wright, he's really impressed during the offseason. So I'm looking at this, Texans cornerback depth chart and saying, is Tremon Smith, is his spot, a lock for this Texans roster? Because he got a little bit more run than maybe some people would expect during that preseason game up against LA. And, whenever I look at it, I wonder if the Texans, obviously they probably value his special teams ability over some of these other guys. But also, if you're the Texans, do you want to keep a, veteran guy like Tremon Smith who you might trust a little bit more? Or do you have somebody who has a higher ceiling like a Colin Wright or maybe Jaylen Smith, like these younger cats that go above him? Remember, last year when the Texans made their 53-man roster cut down, they only kept, I believe, 4 or 5 corners. So definitely going to be some cuts here, and I wonder if Tremon Smith is going to be one of those cuts. Let's go to the next name on the list, Solomon Byrd. I thought he had a really good start to that preseason game in week 1. And if it wasn't for that, face mask penalty that he had on that first drive, I would have said that he was the standout defensive player for the Texans in that first half. He looked really good rushing off the edge, the former 7th-round pick out of USC. And the Texans, their, defensive end 4, defensive end 5 spot is open for grabs, right? Like, we know the top 3 guys. It's obvious. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter. And then number 3, it's Jadeveon Clowney. He's still showing that he has a lot left in the tank. He has a lot of juice. But the next guy up, who's it going to be, right? The Texans added Dominic Robinson, Solomon Byrd, right? Like, there's a lot of, I would say, pressure on some of these guys to perform at the defensive end 4 spot to see who's going to be that player. And, even you have a guy like Logan Hall, who the Texans signed in free agency, who is a defensive tackle, but he can also bump out to defensive end as well. So I'll be looking at Solomon Byrd to see whether or not he can, be that guy, be that defensive end number 4. And funny enough, the next guy on my list, also defensive end, Dylan Horton. I think they are in direct competition, and it is a battle that I'll be looking at as one of the final spots on this Texans 53-man roster for who is going to earn that defensive end 4 spot. Now, Dylan Horton got more run with the Texans last year, 26 tackles, 0.5 sacks, a tackle for loss, a forced fumble last season. The former TCU Horned Frog, obviously his story is one that is so inspirational, right? Got drafted, found out that he had cancer, was able to beat said cancer, and then work his way back to the NFL to where he made the Texans roster and was a contributor as a backup defensive end last year. So I think I speak for a lot of people when we say we're rooting for Dylan Horton. We want him to play well, but also I think the Texans are going to, have to look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, which of these guys, is it Solomon Byrd, is it Dylan Horton, is the correct guy to be that next defensive end? Now, let me know down below in the comment section, who do you think is going to be that next defensive end? After Clowney, after Will Anderson, after Danielle Hunter, who's the next guy? Is it Dylan Horton? Is it Solomon Byrd? Is it somebody else? Is it maybe Dominic Robinson? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Before we continue on, if you haven't already, go check out our merch shop, chatsports.com/HOU shop. My guy, Arnold, with our graphic design team, has absolutely cooked with some of these t-shirt designs. They're absolutely fire. If you want our For the H t-shirt, it also comes in a tank top. I know it is hot as hell outside, so make sure to get that. This is the back of that tank top right there. Our For the H t-shirts. We also have our bestseller in our Will Anderson Jr. Terminator t-shirt and other awesome shirts that we are looking to make for the regular season. So if you haven't already, if you want to support the channel, if you want to get some dope t-shirts to rock this summer and into the season, it's chatsports.com/HOU shop. You can put that in. Check out all the awesome merch that we have on our website. All right, let's go on with the next player with the most approved. I'm going at the linebacker spot, Jamal Hill. He's somebody who has gotten a lot of praise. He actually went down and worked with, whenever Derek Stingley had, his camp with his dad and was working with all the Texans defenders. He was one of the linebackers that went with him, right? It was, Derek Stingley. He brought in Kamari Lassiter, some of the Texans secondary members. Jamal Hill was one of those guys that went with them as well. And he's gotten a lot of praise from time to time, but there's going to have to be cuts in this linebacker room. And in that first preseason game, I think the guys who stood out the most to me, Wade Woodaz and Jake Hummel. I think those two guys really played well. Beyond that, I don't know. Like Aiden Fisher, he flashed from time to time. Jamal Hill, I think he played okay, but he is definitely sitting there on that roster bubble because how many linebackers are the Texans going to keep? And especially if Jake Hansen returns from injury, he had that ankle injury at the very start of training camp. He's been working his way back. He's been working on the sideline now. So, if he's ready to go by the start of the season, that's going to be an even tougher decision at the linebacker spot. There's going to have to be a cut made, and it's going to be a cut of a player that is probably going to be pretty good, right? I think the Texans have some good depth in the back end of their linebacking room. A lot of guys who are hungry and have something to prove. Jamal Hill, he is the former late-round pick out of Oregon, and, D'Amico Ryans has given him a lot of praise this offseason. So have other players on this Texans team, but there's going to be a cut at some point at the linebacker spot, and I wonder if that is Jamal Hill. And the last player is Alijah Huzzie, and he's somebody who I'm a believer in. I think should make this 53-man roster. I just wonder, what his role is going to be and, what he can provide, right? He was a player last year, was on the Texans practice squad, got elevated towards the end of the year, and I thought really played his tail off, really looked good at the back half of the season, and then going into the playoffs. I like Alijah Huzzie. I think he is really good as that backup nickel corner behind Jalen Petrie. But also you have other players that could probably play that role as well. So you're looking at Alijah Huzzie. Does he make the 53-man roster? I thought he had some really good plays up against the Chargers. But the Texans secondary, it's loaded right now, right? So like I said, there's going to be cuts in the linebacker room. There's also going to be cuts in the secondary. And there's going to be good players that don't make this Texans 53-man roster. And I just hope Alijah Huzzie isn't one of those really good players whenever that roster cut down day comes. And I'm like, dang, I really wish the Texans would have kept him instead of cutting him. And I guarantee if the Texans do cut Alijah Huzzie, another team is claiming him off waivers 1,000%. I am a Huzzie guy, so I hope he makes the 53-man roster and proves me right in this preseason game up against the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, that's all I have for you on this show. Make sure to follow me on social media at Jeremy Chugs on X, IG, and TikTok. And if you made it to the end of today's show, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. All right, one segment down, and we just have the mailbag to go. So make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. Make sure to use that hashtag Texans or Super Chat to get on the program. Crenshaw says, we need to sign Derek Barnett back for one of the backup defensive ends. I think that's a good question. Go ahead and put hashtag Texans in there so my guy Brian can pull it for the mailbag. If you have a question, have a statement like that, I think you use hashtag Texans, more than likely, my guy Brian will be able to find it and get you up on screen. Thor said Max on this defense would be a Hall of Famer, whereas Bowers would just be a piece. I don't know. I think Brock Bowers on this offense would be absolutely electric. I think that would be your second option behind Nico Collins if you had Brock Bowers on this team. I would disagree with that, though. I think Brock Bowers would be – I think the Texans would rather – if you're saying that the Texans could take one player from the Las Vegas Raiders, I think it would be Brock Bowers. I do. I think more than Max Crosby. Max Crosby is an amazing player, but if you're telling me I could choose one player to take from the Las Vegas Raiders and add him to the Houston Texans right now, I'm going Brock Bowers. What do you think, Brian? No, you're good.
There's one position where there's depth issues and one where there isn't. That one position where there's depth issues is the one where the Raiders have the best player in the league, the best tight end in the league, Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
I think this is a no-brainer, and I love Max Crosby. I love the way he plays the game. I have nothing but respect for him. I mean, he's a diligent worker, attacks every play, but Brock Bowers is generational. And the Texans, when I look at their depth chart that we showed up several times in that last segment, that's the one position group where, I mean, I don't really know. Yeah, I mean, I like Dalton Schultz. What do you know about Brevin Jordan or Cade Stover? Like, I like what we saw of Marlin Klein last week. But
actually,
no certainty.
Isaac's probably right. If I'm taking one player from the Raiders, it probably is Tyler
Linderbaum.
Yeah, you're right.
Line.
You're right, Isaac.
That's
if I'm taking
on.
one player from the Raiders, it's probably Tyler Linderbaum. You move Keylan Rutledge over to guard, and you got an absolutely nasty 1-2 duo right there on the interior of the O-line. Yeah, Isaac, you're probably right.
I would take him. I mean, I'm more confident in the tight ends than I am the offensive line on this team. And it's funny he brought up Tyler Linderbaum and this Texans O-line, because the one thing I wanted to talk about on the last segment is it's crazy. You add some fresh blood to this offensive line, and it's amazing how we're already discussing some guys who started on this line last year potentially getting cut.
Yeah.
Like, that shows you how bad it's been in the past, and that by simply addressing it a little bit this offseason, the heights the line can go to. Like, I'm a big Keylan Rutledge guy. Like, somebody that's getting in the face of guys every practice, regardless of who they are. Like, not being intimidated by Will Anderson, not being intimidated by Max Crosby. That's what I want out of a rookie.
Thor said, yeah, I'd take Tyler too, but he wasn't in the original. I didn't see the original question. I don't know what the original question was. Was it just between Bowers and... If it's just between Bowers and Crosby, I'm going Bowers. And honestly, I don't know if Crosby makes the top 3 of players that I would take from the Raiders, just because the Texans' defense is already elite. Like, if I'm thinking of players, probably Brock Bowers, Tyler Linderbaum, in no particular order. My top 3, Bowers, Linderbaum, and probably Ginty. Like, those 3 players I would take over Max Crosby. If you're saying I can steal one player from the Raiders and add him to the Texans, it's probably the guys on offense, either Linderbaum, Bowers, or Ginty. I think those 3 guys would help the Texans way more than Max Crosby would this season.
And I'm a Woody Marks guy. I like Woody Marks, but Ashton Janty's just that's a different factor.
Taino, my guy, how we doing? We got some Raider fans rocking and rolling in the chat right now. Let's freaking go.
Also, be sure to get those comments in the chat here using hashtag Texans. We're going to be starting up this mailbag here momentarily, so be sure to add those questions in there. Thank you, Annoyed Stan, as always.
Hell yeah. We're about to get into our mailbag section of the show right now. Taino Raider, salute to you, my good sir. We were just talking about your team. We were just talking about the Raiders. All right, here we go. We're going to get into this mailbag here in just a moment. But reminder, if you want to skip the line, you can by super chatting on the show. That way your question 100% gets on. Also, if you just have a question and you want to throw it up there, you can use that hashtag Texans to make sure that Brian can see it, and he'll pick the best ones for the program. I think we have a decent amount of questions, Brian. Yeah? Okay, cool. We're going to go ahead and get started with our mailbag portion of the show. So let's go ahead and answer all your questions coming up here on Texans Today. Welcome into Texans Today, presented by Prize Picks, and we got another award-winning segment. This is our Texans Today mailbag. All the questions are from our live show on August 18th, so make sure if you are watching, use that hashtag Texans or Super Chat. All the questions are from our loyal subscribers that tuned in to our live show. All right, and as we're about to play the Raiders, I got a bunch of Raider fans rocking and rolling in our chat right now. Let's go to our first question, though, from a Texans fan. We got Anointed Stan in the building, hashtag Texans. What would you rate Nick Caley's job security going into the season? And if the offense is just meh, okay, do you think he gets fired? Oh, that is tough. That is tough. I think he has pretty good job security because, the Texans are hoping and praying that this offense is going to get better, because I don't think anybody wants to see Kaylee get fired, right? Like, that is worst case scenario for this Texans team, because where do you go from here? Like, if Nick Caley's not the answer, I don't know what the Texans do, because then you're having probably conversations talking about CJ Stroud, because obviously the offense didn't play well this season. So if Nick Caley, I would say his job security going into the year is probably at around a 7. I think he has pretty good security. I think, as long as the Texans offense is moving in the right direction. But also, if you do plan on keeping Stroud, adding another coordinator, adding another offensive scheme, adding another, layer to all this, I think that's only going to hurt his regret, or hurt his, development. It's going to hurt his ability to grow, and it's going to be bad news. So I really do hope Nick Caley is the guy that can really help this Texans squad out. All right. Atlas Mac coming in. #Texans. If Higgins is out for the season, who do you think will step up into the number 2 role? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Like, Jayden Higgins went down in joint practice up against the Raiders, but he walked off under his own power. He was able to go get evaluated inside the Texans facility. CJ Stroud said, it'll all be good. Everything's fine. But in your hypothetical, if we're talking, right? Call me crazy. It might be Xavier Hutchinson. Like, I know Texans fans are probably like, what are you talking about with that? But it might be Xavier Hutchinson. Like, he's been showing out a ton, and he's somebody with all the injury concerns on this Texans roster, somebody who's been able to stay healthy. And, I think, best case scenario, it's Tank Dell, because Tank Dell getting back into his form, he was a, top 50 receiver his rookie season. He was an awesome guy. But, it might be Xavier Hutchinson. I don't know. We have also this question coming in from Loco for Toro, which said, why is everyone sleeping on Jawar Jordan as RB3? He's just injured right now. Like, I think, he's somebody who, hasn't really been able to show his stuff. So I think, Noah Whittington has played well, but yeah, we've only seen a limited sample size, and then Jawar Jordan got hurt. So I'd like to see him back out on the field and really be able to kind of show his stuff. I will say though, looking forward, definitely look for the Texans to look into free agency at the running back spot if there is any more injuries, because they've already gotten hit with the injury bug, and hopefully they'll be able to get past that with guys like, Jawar Jordan getting injured, British Brooks getting injured as well. Hopefully they'll be able to really kind of move forward with some of the other guys on this roster. We also have a question coming in from Eric Bishop. #Texans. CJ gets hated on too much, especially for the past 2 seasons and the playoffs. Look at Josh Allen, good in the regular season, but sucks in the playoffs with Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. Well, I don't know if Lamar Jackson has necessarily sucked in the playoffs. Like, he should have beaten, the Buffalo Bills. If, Mark Andrews doesn't drop that ball in the end zone, they're moving on in the playoffs. So I think, I agree with you, though, that everybody loves Justin Herbert and acts like he's this amazing quarterback when Stroud's actually played better than Herbert in most of his playoff games. Like, you go back to Justin Herbert, whenever he played up against the Texans in that playoff game in a dome, he threw 4 interceptions too. Like, he was not good, but everybody acts like Justin Herbert is this top 5, top 10 guy, is this amazing quarterback. I just think when you look at it, like, Stroud does get hated on way too much, and I think it's just because of how good this team is, how good this defense is, and the expectations they have. That they really haven't met, because CJ Stroud really hasn't been able to live up to his hype, especially from the rookie year, right? Like, he had such a good rookie season and then kind of has had a couple of down years. I think he definitely does get overhated on a ton. We have more questions coming up in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our friends over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily sports picks app. It is a place to go if you love winning cash while watching sports. I love Prize Picks. Producer Brian loves Prize Picks, and so will you. It's super simple. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Prize Picks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Super simple, super user-friendly. This is a lineup that I have. And speaking of the Raiders, we have Mendoza. I have the less on his pass yards. Listen, I think Kirk Cousins, he's going to start most of the season, so I'm going the less on Mendoza on my 5-pick power play. I'm going more on Higgins, which hopefully he doesn't get hurt because I'd love to see him help me win this PrizePicks lineup. I also have Montgomery, Anderson, and Stingley more on their stat projections. You can copy my lineup or make your own. Just do it with our friends over at PrizePicks. Best of all, play your first $5 and get $150 in bonus lineups. If you win, just use our code HMA. That's right, PrizePicks. They are totally switching up the game on you, so don't miss out. Make sure to join and lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at signup to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. D'Amico for president. Are there any good free agent wide receivers? Oh, this one's a tough one. We actually kind of missed the boat on my top 2 guys that I think the Texans should have added if they were worried about the wide receiver room. I don't think they were worried about the receiver room. That's kind of why they ended up, not making a move at the receiver spot. But the 2 guys that I wanted were Stephon Diggs. He signed with the Commanders. And then Keenan Allen. He actually just signed with our rival, the Indianapolis Colts. The best receivers available right now, probably these guys. DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Cooks, Josh Reynolds, Curtis Samuel. I would say these are probably the best receivers available right now. But, you're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. You have an older DeAndre Hopkins. Brandon Cooks, probably the best player on this list. But also, I don't know if he loved his time with the Houston Texans. So we would have to see what he would want to do. And DeAndre Hopkins, currently coaching at Georgia Tech, but said he hasn't officially retired, said that he would be open to returning to the NFL. You also have Josh Reynolds, who played with the Jags last year, and then Curtis Samuel, who played with the Bills. So not a ton of options for the Texans if they really do need to add a receiver. Let me know down below. Are you confident in the wide receiver depth on the Texans right now? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comment section if you are confident in this receiver room right now. Let me know your thoughts down below. All right, let's go to the next question coming in from Black Rambo. CJ is the franchise QB and will lead us to an AFC Championship game and Super Bowl. Let's freaking go. Yeah, I mean, you and me both, brother. Me and you both. I think, that is the hope, and I believe that CJ is a good quarterback. I believe when he has the tools around him, he has all of the stuff that you need, all the stuff that is necessary to be the guy. Now, will that come to fruition? We need to hope that this Texans offense takes steps in the right direction, that David Montgomery plays well, that the O-line holds up. If all those things happen, I do think CJ can lead us to victory, to an AFC Championship game, and hopefully to a Super Bowl as well. We got ISO Lee coming in. Hashtag Texans, do you think with his past concussion history, should Nico Collins consider wearing the Guardian cap? I actually do. He said he didn't love it, even though he does wear the Guardian cap sometimes during training camp. I think you look at Jalen Petrie, right? He's somebody who's shown that you can wear the Guardian cap and still ball out and still play a physical brand of football. And, if you're telling me, even if it's the slightest amount, if it reduces the chance that he gets a concussion, you go for it, right? You do it. You got to be able to stay on the field. And Nico Collins, to no fault of his own, has gotten injured at certain points during the, regular season. So, and in the postseason, right? That's what kept him out of that Patriots game, was a concussion up against the Steelers. So if you're telling me it allows him to play 17 games, yes, wear the Guardian cap. I think that'll be, even though he said it's something with his vision, it messes with him catching the football. I don't know. I'd rather him be healthy than not. So I would say yes. We got Loco for Toro again. Why haven't we heard much from Kayden McDonald? I think it's just because he plays in the position that is probably the least publicized position in the NFL. Besides an Aaron Donald or a guy like that, how many defensive tackles do we hear about on a week-to-week basis, right? Maybe Jeffrey Simmons of the Titans. There's very few and far between defensive tackles that we, look at as game changers. There's a lot of guys, especially at the nose tackle spot, who don't get a ton of stats but still do a really good job, like Tommy Togiai was awesome last year. He didn't have the best stats, and if you're a box score watcher and if you're just looking at the stat sheet for what Tommy Togiai did, you probably wouldn't think he's that good of a player, but he really was awesome in his role for this Texans defense last year. I think very similar to Kayden McDonald. Like, he's going to play his role. He's going to be somebody that can help out in the interior, help out with the run stuffing, help out, make sure that he doesn't get moved off the line of scrimmage so the linebackers, Aziz Al-Shire, can knife in and make those plays. So he's going to do a lot of the dirty work. So we really haven't heard a lot from Kayden McDonald, but I wouldn't be too worried about McDonald making an impact this season. Let me know your thoughts, though. What new Texan are you excited to watch this year? What is the one Texan who is new to the team this year that you were really pumped to watch? One player, Reed Blankenship, right? Like, he's been a really good player for the Texans during training camp. Texans had a rotating door at safety last year. You had MJ Stewart. You had CJ Gardner-Johnson at the beginning of the year. You had Jalen Reed. You had multiple guys filling this position. I think you add, Reed Blankenship, who can be a great player in that last spot in the secondary for you. I think that really kind of unlocks everything for this defense, and they'll even be better this year with him playing. But let me know your thoughts down below. Before we get into the final questions on today's show, make sure to go check out our merch shop, chatsports.com/HOU shop. Got some great stuff on top for you. We got For the H t-shirts. We also have the For the H tank tops. We have Will Anderson Jr. shirts. This our bestseller. The Will Anderson Jr. Terminator t-shirts are available. We also have our Swarm Patrol t-shirts, all on our shop right now. It's chatsports.com/HOU shop. Get them, help support the channel, and be able to rock some cool merch that we made here at Texans Today. Shout out to my guy, Arnold, our graphic designer here at Chat Sports. All right, we have time for maybe a couple more questions on this mailbag. As we got Isaac Smith saying, what do you think about Aiden Fisher, and do you think he makes the roster? And producer Brian, go Tigers. Producer Brian is an Alabama fan, so he definitely appreciated that one. I like Aiden Fisher, right? Like, my wife, an Indiana alum, we were able to watch every single Indiana game last year on the way to their national title victory. And Aiden Fisher was a big part of it, right? Like, he was an amazing player on the interior of that defense in the middle, like the green dot, the captain of the defense for the Hoosiers last year. And I think, in his limited action in the preseason, like, he looked good against the Chargers. So I'm really looking for Aiden Fisher to step up in these next two preseason games and show his stuff. It's going to be a tough one, though, because the Texans, they are probably going to keep 6 linebackers, maybe 5. And I think the rookie Wade Woodaz has kind of outperformed him a little bit. So it's going to be a tough road. Plus, the Texans don't usually keep their 7th-round picks, right? Like, they try to stash them away on their practice squads. During the D'Amico era, I don't know if any 7th-round pick has actually made the 53-man roster during his time here. So he's got an uphill battle, but I'll be rooting for him for sure. I think he's a good player. Last question coming in from Just Harry. What's your favorite Texans regular season game? Mine is either the Jags comeback from last season or the Bucs game in 2023. Oh, those are both great choices for regular season games. Another one that I really liked? I really liked the Bills, Thursday night game this past season. Like, the Texans defense was just absolutely making Josh Allen's life a living hell. That game was absolutely spectacular. Also, the Cowboys Monday Night Football game. My wife is a Cowboys fan. That's probably her biggest flaw, is the fact that she roots for the Dallas Cowboys. And I was definitely sleeping on the couch that Monday night whenever I came home, because we absolutely put BTA on the Cowboys the last time we played them. That Monday night game, that was fond memories of Joe Mixon. That was a game that he really went off in that 2024 season. But I really loved that game because, especially, I got some bragging rights over the wife, and the Cowboys, we definitely just absolutely put it to them in that game. We also saw a Derek Barnett touchdown in that. Like, that was just a fun one to watch. Yeah, just off the top of my head, I think those two are the ones I go with. But, there's definitely more games that I can think of, going deeper into the bag. The Andre Johnson touchdown up against the Jags in that overtime game where he took the screen, took it to the house at Reliant Stadium. That was an electric game as well. I think, probably those are some of my favorite games that I could remember just right now off the top of my head. Texans regular season. That's all I have for you in today's show, folks. Make sure to hit me up on social media. If I didn't get to answer your question, you can ask me in my DMs at Jeremy Chugs on X, IG, or TikTok. And if you made it to the end of today's show, make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all year long. All right, here we go. That is it for today's show. But before we get out of here, one final question for you today. It is National Fajita Day. So, my question to you, what is your go-to Tex-Mex restaurant? If you're from Houston, if you're outside of Houston, let me know. Where do you go? What is the best place for Tex-Mex? And what is your what do you get? I'm from League City, Clear Lake area. We actually had a Ninfa's that was near our house for a while. That was really good. We had a place whenever I lived there, it was called Don Pico's. Now it changed to something else, but that place was super good. They had a really good green salsa that I loved. I'm a big fajita guy. I love the attention, getting a sizzling plate to your table. Brian is actually not from Texas, so I don't know. Have you had Tex-Mex before? Oh, make sure to turn it up. There we go.
We got turned up. Now, I'm not originally from Texas, but I have been here for 2 years now. I lived in both Dallas and Fort Worth. And I will say that Fort Worth has the best Tex-Mex.
Houston has the best Tex-Mex.
Paloma Suerte out in the stockyards for people in this chat that are from DFW or spent any time up there. Paloma Suerte.
Isn't there like a different famous spot in Fort Worth that everybody goes to?
Yes. That's Garcia's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it overhyped?
No, it's more ambiance. Yeah, I believe it's JT Garcia's. It's more ambiance than like their food is really good. Don't get me wrong. They have really good fajitas there as well. That's what I got last time I was there with my parents. But overall, I think it lives up to the hype just because the ambiance, like how well it's designed. Like it's indoor, outdoor. You sit out on a nice day like today. JT Garcia's or Joe T Garcia's is what's I've been in Fort Worth in a bit.
Somebody said
Joe
Chewy's in the chat. Have you had Chewy's?
Fort Worth. I've had Chimmy's.
Chewy's is a chain, really good. Their jalapeno ranch is just absolutely bomb.
I will say, if y'all ever do make it to Paloma Suerte in Fort Worth, get their burrito tacos.
Tell them Brian sent you.
Tell them Brian sent you. They'll know exactly who you're talking about.
Dude, yeah. Now I'm feeling like I gotta get fajitas tonight. I think it's a fajita kind of night. I don't know. All right, that's all I have for you on tap for today's show. Reminder, I'll be live for the Texans-Raiders preseason game on Thursday, and I'm messaging with my guy Stressens right now. We're going to try to have a live show on Friday for you. So, my guy Brian might be able to have a little bit of not a day off, but be able to take it easy on the ones and twos as I go ahead and go live with my guy Stressens after the Texans game on Thursday. So we're going to go ahead and try to set that up for all of y'all. I know y'all liked the dual live with my guy Stressens whenever I did it maybe a week and a half ago. So I'm going to try to do some more of those. So that's all I got for you on today's show, folks. As always, make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay informed with everything going on around the Houston Texans. And as always, H-Town, hold it down.